Moved on from an ex with princess syndrome, now happily support my wife's hobbies. The soft hum of the engine was the only sound as Ethan steered his SUV down the winding road, sunlight flickering through the dense canopy of trees above. His hands rested comfortably on the steering wheel, his gaze periodically drifting to the passenger seat where Layla sat, a bright smile lighting up her face as she scrolled through her phone. Even after 5 years of marriage, the way her eyes sparkled, with excitement, never failed to warm his heart. "Look at this one, Ethan," she exclaimed, turning her screen to him. It was another vibrant photo of an intricately decorated cake, layers of pastel pinks and purples adorned with sugar flowers. "I think I can recreate this for Mia's birthday," Ethan chuckled, his chest swelling with pride. "You could make it even better. Your designs are way more creative." Her cheeks flushed, a playful nudge following his compliment. Flatterer. It was moments like this that reminded him just how lucky he was, especially considering where he'd been before Layla entered his life, a past he rarely spoke of but could never quite forget. His ex, Vanessa, had been complicated. At first, she was mesmerizing, breathtakingly beautiful, charming in all the right ways, and with an allure that could draw anyone in. But beneath that enchanting exterior lay a relentless need for attention, constant validation, and an expectation that the world would bend to her every whim. She had what his friends jokingly called princess syndrome, the unwavering belief that she deserved nothing less than perfection, served on a silver platter. And for 3 exhausting years, Ethan had been her dutiful servant, bending over backward to fulfill every extravagant demand, every impulsive wish. Birthdays had been grand spectacles with venues lavishly decorated and gifts piled high. Vacations were never about exploring new places, but about capturing the perfect photos for her social media followers. Even dinners out were choreographed affairs, with Ethan rehearsing compliments that would satisfy her insatiable ego. It wasn't until she ended things, claiming he wasn't ambitious enough to keep up with her dreams of luxury, that Ethan realized just how drained he had been. Yet in that heartbreak lay a lesson, a revelation that love wasn't meant to be a one-sided performance. His chest tightened as the memories surfaced, but they quickly melted away when he glanced at Layla. She was the antithesis of everything Vanessa had been. Where Vanessa demanded the world, Layla crafted her own with patience and passion. Her hobbies, whether it was baking, pottery, or photography, weren't about gaining attention, but about expressing joy. The SUV pulled into the parking lot of the local craft store, and Layla practically bounced out of the car, her enthusiasm contagious. "I need more fondant and edible glitter. Oh, and maybe some new piping tips." Ethan laughed, grabbing her hand as they walked inside. "Whatever you need, I'm here for it." They weaved through the aisles, Layla marveling at each new tool and decoration, her eyes sparkling with creative ideas. Ethan found himself smiling, fully invested in her excitement. It felt liberating to support someone who never demanded, but always appreciated. As Layla debated between 2 shades of pink food coloring, Ethan's phone buzzed. His heart skipped when he saw the name flashing on the screen. Vanessa. "What's wrong?" Layla asked, noticing his shift in demeanor. Nothing. Just a spam call, I think." He shoved his phone back into his pocket, forcing a smile. But inside, his mind raced. Why was Vanessa reaching out after all this time? Later that evening, while Layla was in the kitchen experimenting with her new supplies, Ethan slipped outside, his fingers trembling as he dialed the missed call. Vanessa picked up on the second ring. "Ethan." Her voice was sweet, familiar, yet strangely hollow. "It's been a while." His jaw tightened. "Yeah. What do you want?" There was a pause, a soft sigh, then a carefully constructed vulnerability. I've been thinking about you, about us. I made a mistake, Ethan. Leaving you, it was the worst decision of my life. Ethan's chest constricted. Her words, dripping with nostalgia and regret, pulled at old wounds. Yet, in the back of his mind, he recognized the pattern. This was Vanessa's script, a performance perfected to manipulate emotions. I miss you. We were so good together. Remember our trip to Paris? Or how you used to surprise me with flowers? No one's ever treated me like that. Her voice wavered, her desperation palpable. I've changed, Ethan. I really have. Can we try again? His grip on the phone tightened, anger and confusion swirling within him. How could she say this now? After years of feeling like he was never enough after moving on and finding real happiness with Layla? Vanessa. He took a deep breath, his voice firm. The days that followed were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Ethan found himself more invested in Layla's hobbies, not just because they brought her joy, but because they allowed him to see the world through her vibrant, optimistic lens. They spent weekends experimenting with new recipes, the kitchen transforming into a whirlwind of sugar, flour, and laughter. Layla's passion for baking had blossomed into a full-fledged business, and Ethan couldn't have been prouder. Her cakes weren't just desserts. They were works of art, each creation crafted with meticulous care and imagination. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Layla's head resting on his shoulder, she spoke up. I've been thinking, maybe it's time to open a bakery. Her voice was hesitant, vulnerable. I mean, the orders have been coming in nonstop, and I love doing this, but it's a big step. Ethan didn't hesitate. You should do it. You're incredible at this, Layla, and I'll be right there, every step of the way. Her eyes sparkled, tears of gratitude brimming as she squeezed his hand. You really think I can do it? I know you can. He smiled, leaning in to press a soft kiss to her forehead. We'll make it happen. But as they started planning her dream, Vanessa's call lingered at the back of his mind. He hadn't told Layla about it, partly because he didn't want to bring any negativity into their lives, and partly because he knew how manipulative Vanessa could be. He hoped it had been a one-time thing, a desperate attempt to rekindle the past. Yet the past had a way of clawing its way back when least expected. 2 weeks later, as Ethan was closing up at work, his phone buzzed again. Vanessa. This time, she didn't bother with pleasantries. You think you can just ignore me? Her voice was sharp, cold. After everything we had? I'm not some chapter you can just close, Ethan. He sighed, his patience thinning. Vanessa, I don't know what you're trying to do, but it's over. It's been over for a long time. A bitter laugh echoed through the line. You think you're so much better off now, playing house with that nobody? You'll get bored, Ethan. You always do. And when that happens, I'll be waiting. The venom in her words was palpable, but Ethan refused to let it pierce him. I'm not the same person I was with you. I'm happy now. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same. Her silence was chilling, heavy with resentment. You'll regret this, she whispered, her voice low and dangerous. You don't just walk away from me. The line went dead, and for a moment, Ethan stood frozen, his chest tightening. He knew Vanessa's tactics well. She thrived on control, on manipulation. But could she really do anything to disrupt his life now? Surely she wouldn't go that far, right? He shook off the uneasy feeling and headed home, determined not to let her poison his thoughts. Layla needed his support more than ever, and he was committed to building a future with her, a future that Vanessa would have no part in. But Vanessa wasn't one to let go so easily. The first sign of trouble came a few days later when Layla received a 1-star review on her online baking page, accusing her of using store-bought ingredients and calling her cakes overpriced and overrated. It was bizarre, considering all her customers raved about her homemade recipes and intricate designs. Layla was visibly shaken, her confidence wavering. "I don't understand. I always use the best ingredients, and I've never had a complaint." "Before!" Ethan's jaw clenched, suspicion prickling at the back of his mind. He pulled her into a hug. "Don't worry about it. It's probably just a troll. Your work speaks for itself." But the bad reviews kept coming, each more vicious than the last. They accused her of plagiarism, of lying about her qualifications, even of stealing customers' credit card information. The allegations were absurd, but they were damaging. Orders slowed, and Layla's enthusiasm dimmed. One evening, after another wave of hateful comments, she broke down. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should just stop." Ethan's heart ached, fury boiling within him. He had a strong suspicion who was behind this. Vanessa's words echoed in his mind. "You don't just walk away from me." He couldn't prove it yet, but he wouldn't let Vanessa destroy Layla's dreams. Not after everything they'd built together. The next day, Ethan hired a cybersecurity expert to trace the reviews, determined to find out who was behind the smear campaign. Meanwhile, he made sure to leave glowing testimonials, encouraged Layla's loyal customers to do the same, and helped her launch a new marketing campaign to regain her confidence. But Vanessa wasn't done. A week later, Layla received an anonymous email with photos of Ethan and Vanessa from years ago. Romantic vacations, intimate dinners, moments that were meant to be private. The message was cruel, suggesting Ethan was still in love with Vanessa. Life gradually returned to normal, but the ordeal left scars. Layla took some time to regain her confidence, but with Ethan's unwavering support, she found her footing again. The negative reviews were removed. Her loyal customers rallied behind. Her and her bakery business not only recovered, but flourished. One evening, after a long day of baking, Layla collapsed onto the couch beside Ethan, her head resting on his shoulder. "You know, I almost gave up," she admitted softly. "But you wouldn't let me." Ethan wrapped his arm around her, pulling her closer. "I knew how much this meant to you, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away. Not Vanessa, not anyone." She smiled, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. "I don't know how I got so lucky." "I'm the lucky one," Ethan whispered, brushing a stray curl from her face. "You showed me what real love is. No games, no manipulation, just honesty and trust." Layla tilted her head, her gaze searching his. "Do you think she'll ever come back?" Ethan's expression hardened. "I don't know. But if she does, we'll face it together. She can't hurt us anymore. Not as long as we're honest with each other." Layla nodded, her fingers intertwining with his. No more secrets. No more shadows from the past. They sealed the promise with a kiss, a vow to protect what they had built together. Months passed, and Layla's bakery became a local sensation. She opened a small storefront, charming customers with her creative confections and warm personality. Ethan became her biggest supporter, helping out after work, managing the finances, and even learning how to bake a decent cupcake. But just as they started to believe they were finally free of Vanessa's shadow, an unexpected visitor walked into the bakery one afternoon. Ethan was behind the counter fixing a display when he heard Layla's voice go cold. "Can I help you?" He turned around and felt his stomach drop. Vanessa stood before them, looking different, disheveled, her eyes hollow, her posture slumped. Gone was the confident, manipulative woman who once controlled him. In her place was someone who looked broken, defeated. I just wanted to talk," she stammered, her voice lacking its usual venom. "I owe you an apology." Layla's eyes narrowed, suspicion clear on her face. "An apology? After everything you did? You tried to destroy my business, my relationship. You stalked us, Vanessa. Why should I listen to anything you have to say? Vanessa's shoulders sagged, shame washing over her. You're right. I was awful. I was cruel. But I didn't know what else to do. I was angry, hurt, and I took it out on you. Ethan stepped forward, his expression guarded. You were angry because I moved on? She looked down, her voice trembling. I was angry because I couldn't. You were everything to me, Ethan, and when you left, I felt like I lost everything. I couldn't stand seeing you happy without me. I thought, if I could ruin what you had, maybe you'd come back. Layla crossed her arms, her face hardening. You tried to destroy me. And for what? Because you couldn't handle someone else's happiness? Vanessa flinched, tears pooling in her eyes. I know. I was selfish. But losing you, it broke me. And instead of moving on, I let it consume me. She looked at Ethan, her gaze, pleading. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know. I'm letting go. I won't bother you again. Ethan studied her, searching for any trace of deception. But all he saw was a woman haunted by her own choices, finally facing the consequences of her actions. I hope you find peace, Vanessa, he said softly. But don't come back here. You've done enough damage. Vanessa nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. I understand, and I'm sorry, truly. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. For what it's worth, you two are good together. Don't let anyone take that from you, not even me. With that, she walked out, her figure disappearing down the street, shoulders hunched as if carrying the weight of her regrets. Layla let out a shaky breath, her body tensing. Do you think she meant it? Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We've moved on. She can't touch us anymore. Layla leaned into his embrace, her fears melting away. You're right. We have too much to look forward to. As they stood together, watching the sunset cast a golden glow over the bakery, they knew they had finally left the past behind. Ethan had moved on from the woman who once held him captive with her selfishness and manipulation. And in doing so, he had found the courage to build a life filled with love, honesty, and a future worth fighting for. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together, stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. In the months that followed, life truly began to blossom for Ethan and Layla. The bakery continued to thrive, gaining recognition not just for its delicious treats, but also for the warmth and passion Layla poured into every creation. She expanded. Her menu introduced seasonal specials and even started teaching baking classes, drawing in a loyal community of customers who admired her resilience and creativity. Ethan watched her in awe, realizing just how remarkable the woman he loved truly was. Her strength, her compassion, and her unwavering optimism inspired him daily. Supporting her dreams became his greatest joy, and together they built a partnership based on trust, respect, and unconditional love. One evening, after closing the bakery, Layla approached Ethan with a mischievous grin. I have a surprise for you. He raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. Oh? Should I be worried? She laughed, her eyes sparkling. Maybe, but I think you'll like this one. She led him upstairs to their cozy apartment above the bakery. The aroma of freshly baked cookies filled the air, mingling with the scent of vanilla candles she'd lit around the living room. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he took in the scene, realizing just how lucky he was. Layla guided him to the couch and handed him a small, gift-wrapped box. Open it. Ethan tore off the wrapping paper, revealing a beautifully crafted wooden photo frame. Inside was a picture of the two of them at the bakery's grand opening, smiling, arms wrapped around each other, pure joy radiating from their faces. At the bottom of the frame, engraved in elegant script, were the words, "Our sweet beginning." Ethan's. Throat tightened, emotion washing over him. Layla. This is perfect. She nestled beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. I wanted us to remember how far we've come. Everything we've been through. It only made us stronger. And I wouldn't trade any of it because it led me to you. Ethan kissed her forehead, his voice low and tender. I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness. Not after everything with Vanessa. But you showed me how to love again, how to be truly happy. Layla looked up at him, her eyes soft and full of love. I think we showed each other, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. They sat in comfortable silence, wrapped in each other's arms, the framed photo a testament to their journey, a journey of healing, forgiveness, and rediscovery. Just as they were about to call it a night, Layla hesitated, a playful glint returning to her eyes. Oh, one more thing. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. Another surprise? You're full of them tonight. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a keychain, a miniature cupcake with pink frosting and a tiny charm that read, Daddy's Little Sweetheart. Ethan's jaw dropped, his eyes widening in shock. Are you serious? Layla's grin grew even wider as she nodded, tears of joy shimmering in her eyes. We're going to be parents. For a moment, Ethan was speechless, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, without warning, he scooped her into his arms, spinning her around as laughter and tears mingled. I can't believe it! This is the best news ever! They hugged tightly, overwhelmed with excitement, hope, and love. A new chapter awaited them, a chapter filled with midnight feedings, first words, and tiny footsteps echoing through their home. As they held each other, Ethan realized that his past no longer had any power over him. Vanessa's bitterness, her manipulations, her attempts to ruin his happiness, they were nothing more than distant echoes, long since silenced. He had moved on, completely, fully, and in doing so, he had found a love more powerful than he ever dreamed possible. A love that would carry him through every challenge, every joy, and every sweet beginning yet to come. His future was here, in Layla's arms, and in the tiny heartbeat growing inside her. And for the first time in his life, Ethan knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. The news of Layla's pregnancy brought a new kind of joy to their lives, a happiness that was both exhilarating and terrifying in the best way possible. They spent weeks preparing, transforming the spare room into a nursery painted in soft shades of lavender and cream. Layla spent her days baking with a newfound glow, her hands lovingly kneading dough while humming lullabies. Ethan couldn't help but smile every time he saw her, his heart swelling with pride and anticipation. He threw himself into his work with renewed purpose, saving every penny to ensure they could provide the best for their growing family. In the evenings, they would sit together in the nursery, imagining the future, first steps, first words, bedtime stories, and tiny fingers wrapping around theirs. One night, as they sat on the floor surrounded by baby clothes and stuffed animals, Layla leaned her head against Ethan's shoulder. Do you think we'll be good parents? Ethan wrapped his arm around her, his voice steady and reassuring. I know we will, because we'll do it together, just like everything else. Layla smiled, wiping away a tear. I never imagined my life would turn out like this. After everything, to find this kind of happiness, it feels like a dream. Ethan turned her face toward him, his eyes full of love. It's real, and it's ours. No one can take that away from us. They kissed softly, their hearts beating in unison, knowing that they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As Layla's pregnancy progressed, they were showered with love and support from family and friends. The bakery became a hub of excitement, customers doting on Layla and sharing parenting advice. Ethan was constantly amazed at her strength and resilience, even on days when her feet were swollen and her energy was low. One afternoon, while restocking supplies in the back room, Layla suddenly gasped, clutching her belly. A sharp pain shot through her, leaving her breathless. Panic surged as she tried to steady herself, leaning against the wall for support. Ethan rushed in, his face pale with worry. "Layla, what's wrong?" She looked up, her eyes wide with fear. I think... the baby." Without another word, Ethan scooped her into his arms, his heart racing as he carried her to the car. The drive to the hospital was a blur of flashing lights and whispered prayers, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Hours felt like days as they waited, doctors and nurses moving in and out of the room with urgent expressions. Ethan stayed by Layla's side, holding her hand, his voice trembling as he whispered words of comfort. Finally, the doctor entered, her face calm but serious. "There were complications, but Layla and the baby are stable. We need to monitor her closely, but for now they're both safe." Relief flooded through Ethan, his body sagging as the tension drained away. He kissed Layla's forehead, tears streaming down his face. "You scared me? I thought I was going to lose you." Layla squeezed his hand, her own tears falling. "I was so scared. But I knew you were here. I knew you wouldn't let anything happen to us." They held each other, their bond growing even stronger as they faced the uncertainty together. The experience left them shaken, but also more determined than ever to protect the life they were creating. The months that followed were filled with cautious optimism, frequent doctor visits, and gentle laughter as they navigated the ups and downs of pregnancy. They cherished every heartbeat, every kick, and every moment they were given, refusing to take a single day for granted. Then, one crisp autumn morning, Layla woke Ethan with a firm shake and a panicked whisper. "Ethan, it's time." His eyes flew open, adrenaline surging as he jumped out of bed. They scrambled to grab the hospital bag, Layla breathing through the contractions while Ethan fumbled with his keys. The drive to the hospital was a chaotic mix of excitement, fear, and anticipation. Hours later, after what felt like an eternity, their daughter was born. Tiny, perfect, and breathtakingly beautiful. Ethan's heart nearly burst as he held her, for the first time her tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb. Tears streamed down his face as he looked at Layla, exhausted but glowing with love. She's perfect," he choked out, his voice breaking. Layla smiled weakly, her eyes shining. "We did it. We made something beautiful." They named her Emma Grace, a name filled with hope and promise. As they cradled her in their arms, they realized they had created something that was theirs alone, a new beginning, untouched by the past. Vanessa's shadow no longer loomed over them. Her jealousy, her manipulations, her bitterness, they were nothing compared to the love Ethan felt as he watched his daughter's tiny chest rise and fall. He had moved on, not just from an ex with princess syndrome, but from all the pain and resentment that once haunted him. The days that followed were a blur of late-night feedings, diaper changes, and sleepy cuddles. Ethan and Layla fell into a rhythm, learning together, laughing through the exhaustion, and marveling at the tiny miracle they had brought into the world. Emma was everything they had dreamed of and more. Curious, expressive, and full of life. Her wide, bright eyes seemed to take in the world with wonder, and her giggles became the music that filled their home. Ethan found himself mesmerized by every little thing she did. Her first smile brought tears to his eyes. Her first coo melted his heart. He spent hours talking to her, telling her stories about hope and love, about courage and kindness, about finding happiness even after heartache. Layla watched him with a warmth that was almost tangible. "She's got you wrapped around her little finger already," she teased one evening as Ethan sang to Emma in a soft, off-key voice. He grinned, unashamed. "I don't mind. I'd give her the whole world if I could." They grew together as a family, their bond deepening with each passing day. The bakery flourished as Layla returned to her passion, her loyal customers overjoyed to see her smile once more. Ethan balanced work and fatherhood, learning to juggle his responsibilities with a heart that was now twice as full. But amid the joy, the past wasn't entirely finished with them. It started with a letter. An ivory envelope slipped under their door, addressed to Ethan in elegant, familiar handwriting. His heart skipped a beat when he saw it, a chill running down his spine. Layla found him standing frozen in the hallway, the letter trembling in his hands. "What is it?" she asked, worry evident in her voice. Ethan swallowed hard. "It's from Vanessa." Layla's eyes widened, a flash of concern crossing her face. "After all this time?" He nodded, feeling the ghosts of old memories stir. He hesitated, then opened the envelope, his hands shaking. The note inside was short, almost hauntingly simple. "I'm sorry. I finally understand. I hope you've found the happiness I couldn't give you." Vanessa. Ethan stood there, his mind racing. The words were genuine, raw. He could feel the pain behind them, the regret that had been years in the making. Layla placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Are you okay?" He looked at her, his eyes softening. "Yeah, I think I am. It's just strange, you know, to finally have closure." She hugged him, her warmth grounding him. "You deserve peace, Ethan. We both do." He kissed the top of her head, the weight of the past finally lifting. "We have it, Layla, right here, with Emma, with each other. Nothing can change that." Together, they walked to the fireplace, the letter still clutched in Ethan's hand. He hesitated, then tossed it into the flames, watching as the paper curled and turned to ash. It was over. Truly over. They turned back to the living room, where Emma lay in her crib, her tiny fingers reaching for the mobile above her. She babbled, happily, her innocence and joy a reminder of everything good in their world. Ethan wrapped his arm around Layla, his heart full. "Let's go to bed. Tomorrow's a new day. Our future is just beginning." Layla smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "And it's a beautiful one." They stood together, watching their daughter, their love stronger than ever. The past was behind them, the future wide open. Ethan had moved on from a love that was never meant to be and found something far more precious: family, forgiveness, and a happiness that could never be taken away. As the fire crackled and the night deepened, they held each other close, knowing that they had everything they would ever need. The end. Months passed, and life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Ethan and Layla embraced the joys and challenges of parenthood, growing closer with every late-night feeding and every sleepy smile from baby Emma. Their days were filled with laughter, love, and the simple pleasures of watching their daughter discover the world. Ethan couldn't believe how complete his life felt. The pain of the past seemed like a distant memory, its edges softened by the love that filled his home. He focused on his family, his work, and supporting Layla's passions, watching her flourish as she balanced motherhood and her beloved bakery. But just as they thought the past was truly behind them, an unexpected visitor appeared at their doorstep. It was a chilly afternoon when the doorbell rang. Ethan answered, balancing Emma on his hip, only to freeze when he saw the familiar face standing there. Vanessa. She looked different, older, wearier, Her eyes held a sadness that Ethan had never seen before. Her shoulders slumped as if carrying a heavy burden. "Ethan," she began, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" He hesitated, his protective instincts kicking in. He wanted to shut the door, to shield his family from whatever chaos Vanessa might bring. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw genuine pain, a vulnerability he didn't expect. Reluctantly, he let her in, leading her to the living room while Layla stayed in the kitchen, her eyes wary. Vanessa's gaze lingered on Emma, her expression softening. "She's beautiful. You're a lucky man." Ethan tightened his grip on his daughter. "What do you want, Vanessa?" She sighed, her hands trembling. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I needed to see you, to apologize in person. I've been carrying this guilt for so long, and I realized I never gave you the closure you deserved." Ethan's jaw clenched, old wounds reopening. "You think showing up out of nowhere will fix that?" She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No, I know it won't, but I had to try. I was selfish, Ethan. I took you for granted, thinking the world owed me happiness. I blamed you when things went wrong, but it was my own emptiness I couldn't face." He stood in silence, emotions swirling. Part of him wanted to lash out, to tell her how deeply she'd hurt him. But another part of him saw the broken woman before him, weighed down by her own regrets. Vanessa looked at Emma again, her eyes glassy. "Seeing you like this, happy, with a family, I finally understand. You were always meant for this, for someone who could appreciate you. Someone better than me." Ethan swallowed, his voice steady. "You were right about one thing. I did find happiness, but not because you weren't good enough. It was because we weren't right for each other. You chased a fairy tale, and I was chasing someone who didn't exist." She winced, his words cutting deep. "I thought I wanted perfection, but all I did was ruin everything. I ruined us." Ethan looked down at Emma, her tiny fingers reaching for his face, blissfully, unaware of the complicated history unfolding around her. "We ruined each other, but we also taught each other what we really needed." Vanessa wiped her tears, a sad smile crossing her lips. "I didn't expect forgiveness, but hearing that, it helps." She took a shaky breath. "I'm leaving the city. I need to start over, away from the person I used to be." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of finality. "I hope you find peace, Vanessa, and I hope you learn to be happy without needing someone else to make you feel whole." Her lip quivered, a mixture of relief and sorrow in her eyes. "Thank you for everything. And goodbye, Ethan." With one last glance at Emma, Vanessa turned and walked out the door, her figure disappearing down the street. Ethan watched until she was out of sight, a strange sense of closure washing over him. He turned to find Layla standing behind him, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay?" He smiled softly, his shoulders relaxing. "Yeah, I think I finally am." Layla stepped closer, wrapping her arms around him and Emma. "She's really gone this time, isn't she?" Ethan kissed her forehead, his heart full. "Yes, and it's about time I stopped letting the past have any power over me." They stood there in the doorway, holding each other close, the cold wind fading as warmth enveloped them. Ethan realized that moving on wasn't about forgetting, it was about accepting, forgiving, and letting go. It was about choosing love and happiness every single day. As Layla laughed at Emma's playful coos, Ethan knew he had finally done just that. He had moved on. Not just from Vanessa, but from the pain, the regrets, and the man he used to be. And as he looked at his wife and daughter, his heart swelled with gratitude. For the second chance at happiness, for the family he never thought he'd have, and for the future he was finally ready to embrace. Together, they closed the door, leaving the past behind, and this time, it was for good. The end. Life continued to move forward, richer and fuller than Ethan could have ever imagined. The days turned into months, and Emma grew before their eyes, her first steps, her first words, each milestone a reminder of the love and happiness that now defined their world. Layla's bakery became a cherished part of the community, its doors always open, the air filled with the scent of fresh pastries and laughter. Customers adored her, not just for her culinary talents, but for her warmth and kindness, which made every visit feel like coming home. Ethan watched her with pride, amazed by her resilience and grace. She balanced motherhood and her dreams seamlessly, never losing her spark. He found himself falling in love with her all over again, every single day. He, too, found new purpose. Inspired by the journey he had taken, from heartbreak to healing, from loss to love, Ethan started writing. It began as a personal outlet, a way to process everything he had gone through. But the words flowed effortlessly, transforming into stories that resonated with others. Layla was his biggest supporter, encouraging him to publish his work. With her unwavering belief in him, Ethan's first book became a local bestseller, a heartfelt narrative about second chances and finding hope after pain. Their lives intertwined beautifully, balancing each other out in every way. When Layla needed extra hands at the bakery, Ethan was there, laughing as he fumbled through frosting cakes and greeting customers. When Ethan felt vulnerable about his writing, Layla was his rock, reminding him of his strength and talent. They built a life on trust, love, and unwavering support, a far cry from the chaos and confusion Ethan had once known. But life, as they learned, always had a way of surprising them. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Layla turned to Ethan with a playful glint in her eyes. "I think we should talk about expanding." He looked at her, puzzled. "The bakery? I mean, we've been doing great, but I thought you wanted to keep it local." Layla laughed, her hand resting on her stomach. "Not the bakery. Our family." Ethan's eyes widened, realization dawning on him. "You mean?" She nodded, tears of joy sparkling in her eyes. "Emma's going to be a big sister." A rush of emotions flooded through him. Excitement, gratitude, love. He pulled her into his arms, his heart pounding with joy. "We're having another baby?" Layla laughed, her happiness contagious. "Yes, and I'm pretty sure this one is going to be just as mischievous as Emma." Ethan's mind spun with the possibilities. A bigger family, more laughter, more memories. He kissed her, his voice choked with emotion. "I can't believe how lucky I am." Layla smiled, her gaze tender. "You deserve this, Ethan. We both do. After everything, we finally have our happy ending." He looked at her, his heart full. No, this is just the beginning. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat together, dreaming of the future. A future filled with love, laughter, and the family they were building, one beautiful moment at a time. Ethan had moved on from the shadows of his past, embracing the light and love that surrounded him. And with Layla by his side, he knew that no matter what life threw their way, they would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart, forever. The end. As the years unfolded, Ethan and Layla's lives became a tapestry of cherished moments and evolving dreams. Emma blossomed into a spirited child, her curiosity and kindness a testament to the love that surrounded her, the anticipation of welcoming. A new member to their family added a layer of joy and excitement to their days. Layla's bakery continued to thrive, becoming a cornerstone of the community. The aroma of freshly baked goods wafting through the air drew in locals and visitors alike, each treat crafted with the passion and dedication that Layla poured into her work. Ethan often found himself lending a hand, his attempts at decorating pastries bringing laughter and lightheartedness to the bustling kitchen. Ethan's journey as a writer flourished alongside his family life. The success of his first book opened doors to new opportunities, and he found solace and inspiration in weaving tales that resonated with readers. His stories, rich with themes of resilience and hope, mirrored the path he had walked, a testament to the transformative power of love and forgiveness. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves danced in the breeze, Ethan received a letter that would once again stir the echoes of the past. The return address was unfamiliar, but the elegant handwriting sparked a distant memory. With a mix of curiosity and apprehension, he opened the envelope to find a letter from Vanessa. "Dear Ethan, I hope this letter finds you well. It's taken me a long time to find the courage to write to you again. Our last encounter left me with much to reflect upon, and I have spent these years striving to become a better version of myself. I wanted to share with you that I have found a sense of peace and purpose. Your words and the life you have built inspired me to seek the same for myself. I have opened a small art studio, a place where I can channel my emotions and experiences into something meaningful. I understand that our paths have diverged, and I do not wish to disrupt your life. I simply wanted to express my gratitude for the role you played in my journey toward healing. Seeing you find happiness gave me the strength to pursue my own. Wishing you and your family all the best. Warm regards, Vanessa." Ethan sat quietly, absorbing the words. The chapter with Vanessa had been a tumultuous one, filled with pain and lessons that had shaped who he had become. Knowing that she had found her own path to peace brought a sense of closure he hadn't realized he still needed. Sharing the letter with Layla that evening, they both reflected on the unpredictable paths life had led them down. Layla squeezed his hand, her eyes filled with understanding. "It's a reminder," she said softly, "of how far we've come and the strength we've found in each other." As the seasons changed, so did the dynamics of their family. The arrival of their second child, a boy they named Lucas, brought new energy and joy into their home. Emma embraced her role as a big sister with enthusiasm, guiding Lucas through the wonders of their world. Ethan and Layla continued to nurture their passions, supporting each other's dreams while creating new ones together. Their home was filled with laughter, the walls adorned with Emma's colorful drawings and Lucas's budding attempts at artistry. In the quiet moments, Ethan often marveled at the journey that had brought them here. The twists and turns, the heartaches, and triumphs, all leading to a life rich with love and fulfillment. The past, once a source of pain, had transformed into a foundation upon which they built their happiness. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes set on the horizon, they embraced the future together. The end. As the years passed, Ethan and Layla's family continued to flourish. Emma and Lucas grew up in an environment filled with love, support, and the delightful aroma of Layla's bakery creations. The siblings shared a bond that was both heartwarming and unbreakable, often found embarking on adventures together, their laughter echoing through the halls of their home. Ethan's writing career soared to new heights. His novels, rich with themes of resilience and hope, resonated with readers worldwide. Each book signing and literary award reminded him of the journey he'd undertaken, from the depths of heartbreak to the pinnacle of personal and professional fulfillment. Layla's bakery became a beloved cornerstone of the community. People traveled from neighboring towns to savor her delectable pastries and to experience the warmth that Layla infused into every interaction. The bakery wasn't just a place to enjoy delicious treats. It was a haven where stories were shared, Friendships were forged, and the essence of community thrived. One winter, as snow blanketed the town, the family decided to create a new tradition. They gathered in the cozy living room, the fireplace casting a warm glow, and took turns sharing stories, both real and imagined. Emma, with her vivid imagination, often led the charge, spinning tales that captivated her parents and brother. Lucas, inspired by his sister and father's storytelling prowess, began crafting his own narratives, showcasing a budding talent that filled Ethan and Layla with pride. As the children grew, so did their interests and talents. Emma developed a passion for astronomy, often dragging her family outside on clear nights to gaze at the stars. Ethan would join her, and together they would weave stories about the constellations, a pastime that deepened their father-daughter bond. Lucas, on the other hand, showed an affinity for music, filling their home with melodies that brought joy to all who listened. Through every challenge and triumph, Ethan and Layla remained steadfast partners. They supported each other's dreams, celebrated each other's successes, and provided comfort during difficult times. Their love story, once marked by uncertainty and past wounds, had transformed into a testament to the power of forgiveness, resilience, and unwavering commitment. In the quiet moments, as they watched their children play or worked side by side in the bakery, Ethan and Layla would often reflect on their journey. The twists and turns, the unexpected detours, all led them to this beautiful present, a life rich with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes set on the horizon, the family embraced each new day, knowing that together they could navigate any path the future held. The end.